Novo Nordisk sparked the obesity drug craze with Ozempic. The Danish pharmaceutical giant has become a household name thanks to the booming weight loss drug market, which could balloon to $139 billion by the end of the decade. Since the launch of Ozempic in December of 2017, Novo Nordisk stock has advanced more than 90%. The company added to that success with the introduction of Wegovy in 2021. And until recently, the drugmaker led the field in new prescriptions. But analysts say the pendulum has begun to swing the other way. The weight loss trailblazer is rapidly ceding market share to rival Eli Lilly, thanks to production missteps and supply shortages. Shares of Novo Nordisk have lost more than half of their value after topping out in June 2024. And Eli Lilly is projected to be the top global prescription drug seller by the end of the decade, thanks to robust sales of its diabetes and obesity treatments. How did Novo Nordisk squander its first-to-market advantage, and can the company regain its competitive edge? On this episode of Growth Stories, we take a look at the escalating rivalry between Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, and how the Danish drugmaker lost its grip on the weight loss drug market. Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly are locked in a fierce battle for control of the weight loss drug market. Their rivalry in diabetes drugs spans over a century, and the application of these medications to treat obesity is opening a pivotal new chapter in their storied competition.
Market leadership hasn't really changed since the launch of Ozempic.
That's IBD biopharma and medtech reporter Allison Gatlin. She notes that while Novo Nordisk is still considered the frontrunner in the weight loss market, recent missteps have provided Eli Lilly an opportunity to close the gap.
It just feels like Lilly is really catching up quickly. They've gained market share very fast.
Evidence of the changing market dynamics can be seen in the company's stock performance. After outperforming the major indexes together for several years as weight loss drugs hit the mainstream, Eli Lilly stock has fared much better than Novo Nordisk so far in 2025. While Lilly is outpacing Novo, it's not the stock it once was. Shares have fallen roughly 30% from their 52-week highs and are down more than 10% on the year. Meanwhile, Novo is trading more than 60% below its prior peak. The lackluster action for both stocks comes as the broader medical sector has largely fallen out of favor with investors over the last 12 months. Recent earnings also show a tightening race. Novo Nordisk brought in nearly $8 billion in sales for Ozempic and Wegovy in the second quarter of 2025, while Lilly reported $8.58 billion in sales from its weight loss lineup, which includes Mounjaro and Zepbound.
Currently, the demand for Wegovy and Ozempic outweighs the demand for Lilly's tirzepatide-based drugs, but that could shift over time. It's likely that Lilly is going to catch up even more.
With Eli Lilly in striking distance of the weight loss crown, many investors are wondering how Novo Nordisk let its early advantage slip away. You could say the company severely misjudged consumer appetite for Wegovy. Let's go back to 2014. That's when Novo launched an early version of a weight loss drug called Saxenda. The drug was met by skepticism by doctors and wasn't covered for weight loss by most US insurance plans, so it didn't really do gangbuster sales numbers. When executives at Novo were ready to launch Wegovy in 2021, they figured this new drug would run up against the same roadblocks, so production levels were planned accordingly. They were very wrong. Wegovy's prescription rate surpassed Saxenda's 5-year totals in just 5 weeks. The surge of demand for Novo's obesity drug shots caused a run on semaglutide, which is the main component in Novo's weight loss drugs. Semaglutide mimics the GLP-1 hormone that controls hunger signals in the body. In 2022, the FDA declared semaglutide shortages for both Ozempic and Wegovy. The shortage severely limited access to the drugs for new and existing patients.
I think it is the drug shortages that hampered Novo's performance in the market, especially based on their revenue earnings and their gap in the supply chain.
That's Jane Horning, Chief Clinical Officer at MMIT, a pharmaceutical market research firm. She says Novo responded to these supply issues by limiting demand. They asked doctors not to start new patients on the drug and ration the medication to give preference to existing patients on higher dosages. Though the FDA officially declared the semaglutide shortage over earlier this year, the period of scarcity opened the door for competition. Special pharmacies in the US were able to make alternative versions of semaglutide that sold at a fraction of the cost of Ozempic and Wegovy. Telehealth companies like Noom and Hims & Hers quickly capitalized on this new and cheaper drug supply and aggressively promoted these compounded versions to their customers. This helped to erode Novo Nordisk's market share. Investors wiped out $70 billion in the drugmaker's value on July 29th after the company lowered its 2025 sales growth forecast from the 13 to 21% range down to 8 to 14%, citing concerns about copycat drugs. And shareholders were so furious about these revisions that they're now taking Novo to court. The lawsuit alleges that Novo issued false and misleading statements about the company's potential growth. Executives said that about 1 million patients continue to take knockoff versions of these semaglutide drugs. Novo thought that number would decline as drug shortages eased, but that hasn't been the case.
As unsafe and unlawful mass compounding continues, the Wegovy penetration within the cash channel has been lower than expected.
These shortages also provided an opening for Eli Lilly's new weight loss drugs to take hold. Lilly introduced Mounjaro for diabetes in 2022. A year later, it followed up with Zepbound, a weight loss version of the same drug. Although Lilly also faced demand-driven shortages, the company was able to resolve them more quickly than Novo Nordisk. The Street expects Lilly's Mounjaro sales to top Novo's Ozempic sales for the first time in 2026. The gap is expected to widen over the next 5 years. Lilly's Zepbound isn't expected to surpass Novo's Wegovy before 2030, but it's quickly catching up. Like Wegovy, Zepbound mimics the GLP-1 hormone that controls appetite, but the treatment targets an additional hormone called GIP, or glucose-dependent insulinotropic polypeptide, to enhance weight loss. The dual action matters.
Zepbound in a head-to-head study outperformed Wegovy in terms of the amount of weight loss patients were able to achieve.
Gatlin says the study, published in December 2024, found that patients who took Zepbound lost nearly 50% more weight than those who took Wegovy. That translates to an average of 50 pounds lost among Zepbound recipients versus 33 pounds for Wegovy patients.
So that means that more doctors, more patients are trying to get a hold of Zepbound, especially in terms of patients who need to lose more weight.
This outperformance is reflected in prescription rates. Americans have filled more Zepbound prescriptions so far this year than Wegovy scripts. As of July, Zepbound accounted for 59% of US branded weight loss prescriptions, while Wegovy accounted for 40%. And here's an interesting twist. The vast majority of Americans likely don't know Zepbound is more effective than Wegovy. MMIT's Jane Horning explains.
I think that doctors will tend to lean towards Zepbound because they think it will work based on the clinical trials. There'll be fewer plateaus, and then patients will be more compliant on the products.
Those sales of Ozempic and Wegovy are generating billions of dollars for Novo. A series of strategic missteps have rattled investor confidence in the Danish drugmaker as it struggles to recapture its once high-flying growth. Unhappy shareholders ousted Novo Nordisk CEO in May in a bold move to turn around the company's performance. On July 29th, the company named Maziar Mike Dustar as the new boss.
Looking ahead, we must act with greater urgency, building on our company's strength, while sharpening our focus on commercial execution and operational efficiency.
And Dustar will face a multitude of challenges to improve Novo's position in the market. Supply issues have been at the root of a lot of the company's troubles, and Novo is spending big bucks to get its production capabilities up to scale. In 2024, Novo's capital expenditures and acquisitions related to manufacturing capabilities totaled more than $20 billion. The company plans to spend another $10 billion in 2025 to expand its global supply chain. Eli Lilly has also made significant investments in expanding its manufacturing initiatives. The company spent more than $5 billion in this area in 2024 and has signed manufacturing contracts with various producers that could amount to $14 billion over the next 8 years. MMIT Chief Clinical Officer Jane Horning says these investments are a step in the right direction, but won't ease supply strains overnight.
And so I do think that we're going to see possibly some dips in the supply chain over the next couple of years, not as drastically as we saw it when they first came to market, but for sure we're going to see some slowness until these get up online.
Strategic partnerships have also been a key focus of Novo's turnaround strategy. Over the past 5 months, the company inked significant deals, the most notable being with telemedicine platform Hims & Hers Health. Lilly has its own telemedicine deals with Ro.co and LifeMD.
Partnerships can only help the companies that are dealing in them. Novo is trying to get the word out about Wegovy.
Investors initially celebrated the Hims & Hers agreement, but the alliance swiftly unraveled. Just a few months after the April announcement, Novo abruptly ended the collaboration, accusing Hims & Hers of continuing to sell unauthorized, potentially unsafe knockoff versions of Wegovy. Hims & Hers says it will still offer Wegovy to its customers, but it will no longer be included in the company's membership plans. Despite this setback, Novo executives affirmed their commitment to partnering with other telehealth companies to ensure patients can have direct access to the drug.
Novo Nordisk is working to prevent unlawful and unsafe compounding of semaglutide in the U.S., while making sure patients have access to safe, legitimate semaglutide produced only by Novo Nordisk.
While Novo Nordisk's high-profile partnership with Hims quickly dissolved, its recent agreement with CVS Caremark could prove far more significant. That's mainly because pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, act as crucial intermediaries between drug manufacturers, pharmacies, and individual insurance plans. In May, Novo cemented an agreement that makes Wegovy the preferred weight loss drug within Caremark's extensive network that boasts roughly 100 million members. Eli Lilly Zepbound was previously the preferred drug. IBD reporter Allison Gatlin explains.
Beginning in July, patients who use that PBM are going to have to go with Wegovy as opposed to Zepbound. Analysts don't necessarily think that's going to be that big of a hit for Lilly.
While the deal may not have a material impact on Lilly, Horning believes it could be a major win for Novo's financial performance. Since the switchover on July 1st, about 95% of weight loss prescriptions for affected CVS members have been for Wegovy. The PBM said that before the change, prescriptions for Zepbound and Wegovy were roughly a 50-50 split.
Getting the contracts with the big PBMs is what's going to broaden the market and lead to increased usage and then hopefully better share prices.
Though both companies are aggressively scaling production and expansion opportunities, Gatlin says that future stock performance will rely on the success of their experimental weight loss drug pipelines.
Novo has 2 next-generation drugs in its pipeline. It's working on CagriSema and amycretin. These are drugs that mimic the GLP-1 hormone and the amylin hormone. It's a different approach to doing the same thing, to improving feelings of hunger and then improving markers of blood sugar.
But she notes that Novo has faced some setbacks in this area. Disappointing results from a late-stage clinical trial released in December caused Novo shares to plunge more than 20%, wiping out more than $100 billion of Novo's market cap in just one day. Meanwhile, investors are eagerly awaiting late-stage trial data for Eli Lilly's experimental drug that could be more potent than its current weight loss treatments.
Lilly is also working on a triple agonist. It's called Triple G. What it will do is it will mimic 3 hormones in order to potentially improve the amount of weight lost.
Gatlin says while Eli Lilly appears to have the R&D edge for now, she says Novo could soon upset the market.
The next thing for Novo that's really exciting for the company and investors in that stock is that the company recently filed for FDA approval of its oral semaglutide.
Gatlin says that the May filing was a bit of a surprise, as analysts projected Lilly would be the first to launch an obesity pill. But now it looks like Novo is going to beat it to the punch. Eli Lilly stock suffered its worst trading day in almost 3 decades on August 7th, after the company said its experimental weight loss pill showed only modest results in a late-stage clinical trial. Horning explains why a daily obesity pill would be a game changer in the weight loss drug market.
I think for the patients that are needle phobic, it's going to be a great option, and there are a lot of people that are needle phobic, and so it's going to expand the market.
These pills could also be cheaper and faster to produce.
I just think that all of these factors are going to play into a higher demand for the GLP-1s.
Of course, all the success of these current and upcoming drugs will hinge on pricing. Novo's Wegovy has a list price of roughly $1,350 per package. The list price is basically the cash price before insurance kicks in. Now, a lot of patients end up paying the list prices for these medications because their insurance won't cover them as obesity drugs. List prices for various doses of Ozempic are just under $1,000. Lilly's Zepbound medication can cost as much as $499 per month, while the list price for Mounjaro is about $1,079 per fill. Medicare will implement negotiated drug prices for select medications, including Wegovy and Ozempic, starting in 2026, with the new prices taking effect in 2027. Zepbound is not currently scheduled for Medicare drug pricing review.
I think lowering the price of these products is going to increase demand, and I think we're going to have a lot more competition in the market moving forward.
So what can investors expect as competition in the global weight loss market gears up?
I think it's going to be interesting to watch the space for oral weight loss drugs. Analysts and experts say that injections will still be more efficacious than the pills. However, a lot of patients are needle phobic. Some patients live in areas where they can't reliably refrigerate their injectable medications. And so this opens up the market to patients who wouldn't otherwise seek an injection. And then there's patients who've been on injections for some time. They've lost the weight they want to lose, and they're looking for something of a maintenance option that's a little bit easier to use. And that's where the pills could really take off.